Have you ever noticed how two men can face the same chaos, the same pressure, the same loss, yet one collapses while the other remains calm and unshaken? This difference is not intelligence, not luck, and not background. It is wisdom. Stoic philosophy teaches that weakness often reveals itself through language. Certain phrases quietly expose a man's inner posture toward life. They signal whether his mind is disciplined or fragile, whether he stands in authority or lives as a victim. Today, we expose the phrases that silently destroy a man's power, not to shame, but to awaken. Because once a phrase is seen clearly, it loses its grip on you. The first and most dangerous phrase is simple: "It's not my fault." When pressure arrives, the foolish man looks outward. He blames the economy, his boss, his partner, society, or his past. By doing so, he makes a silent confession that he is not in control of his life. Blame feels comforting because it removes responsibility, but that comfort is poison. The moment you say it is not your fault, you hand your emotional sovereignty to the world. Your peace now depends on people and circumstances that do not care about you. Epictetus taught that some things are in our control and everything else is not. The foolish man fights reality while the Stoic aligns with it. Imagine two captains facing the same violent storm. One screams at the wind and curses the sky, wasting energy on forces that cannot hear him. The other says nothing, tightens his grip, adjusts his sails, and steers. When you say it is not your fault, you abandon the wheel. Stoicism does not say every event is your fault, but it insists that every response is your responsibility. A man becomes powerful the moment he stops asking who caused this and starts asking what must be done now. As long as your fingers are pointed outward, your hands are too busy to build. Another phrase exposes emotional weakness more clearly than most. "He made me lose my temper." This sentence suggests that your emotions are controlled remotely, that anyone can press a button and hijack your mind. The foolish man believes insults force anger, traffic forces rage, and disrespect forces reaction. In truth, nothing forces anything. Seneca called anger a temporary madness, a moment where reason collapses. When you say someone made you angry, you admit that your mind is unguarded territory. Consider a man shoved hard in a crowded street. He turns furious, ready to fight, until he realizes the person who bumped him is blind. Instantly, the anger vanishes. The shove did not change. Only the judgment did. This proves that events do not disturb us, but our opinions about them do. The foolish man reacts instantly, enslaved by first impressions. The Stoic pauses. He creates space between stimulus and response. An insult only has power if it finds weakness to land on. If you are easily provoked, you are easily controlled. A disciplined mind is a fortress, but a reactive mind is an open door. The foolish man also lives everywhere except where his feet are planted. He says he will be happy when he gets the promotion, when he buys the house, or when he finally retires. He treats the present moment like a waiting room, something to endure rather than inhabit. This is the language of anxiety. By tying happiness to future events, he guarantees dissatisfaction now. The future is never stable enough to carry your peace. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor with unlimited power, reminded himself daily to remain grounded in present duty. He understood that the future is fog and the past is memory. Only the present exists. There is a story of a businessman explaining to a fisherman how more work leads to more money to retirement, and retirement to peace. The fisherman listens and replies that he is already living that life. The foolish man postpones living. He runs endlessly toward a horizon that keeps moving. Stoicism does not reject ambition, but it rejects attachment. Work hard, build, improve, but do not place your peace on outcomes you cannot control. If you cannot find peace in disciplined effort today, wealth tomorrow will only make you a richer but more miserable man. Another revealing phrase escapes the lips of the unwise when hardship arrives. Why is this happening to me? This is not a question but resistance disguised as confusion. The foolish man believes life owes him comfort. When pain appears, he feels personally targeted and betrayed. He calls it unfair and resists reality itself. Pain is unavoidable, but suffering is optional. Stoicism teaches amor fati, the love of fate, not merely tolerating events, but embracing them as necessary. Every obstacle is training. Imagine a wrestler paired only with weak opponents. He learns nothing and remains fragile. But when paired with a champion, he struggles, sweats, and grows stronger. Life is that coach. When you reject hardship, you reject growth. Marcus Aurelius thanked the gods for difficulty because it tested his virtue. Fire does not destroy strength, it reveals it. The foolish man secretly believes comfort is a reward and discomfort is an injustice. He avoids silence, discipline, restraint, and struggle. He asks why he should suffer. Stoicism answers that comfort rots the soul. Ease produces softness, softness produces dependence, and dependence produces fear. The Stoic seeks voluntary discomfort, not to suffer needlessly, but to remain sharp. Cold strengthens the body, silence strengthens the mind, and restraint strengthens character. The man who cannot tolerate discomfort becomes enslaved to pleasure and terrified of loss. A foolish man is loud about his struggles, but a wise man is quiet about his strength. True power does not announce itself. It reveals itself through calm, consistency, and control. Stop blaming, stop reacting, stop postponing life, stop resisting reality. Accept responsibility, master your judgments, anchor yourself in the present, and use hardship as fuel. This is not motivation. This is mental architecture. Walk quietly, work relentlessly, and let results speak. If this message resonates, you already know that the path of the fool no longer fits you. The path of the Stoic stands open, waiting for those disciplined enough to walk it. A man does not collapse because life is hard. He collapses because he refuses to carry weight. Weak men are not destroyed by events. They are destroyed by their refusal to adapt. Stoicism teaches that resistance to reality is the root of unnecessary suffering. When a man keeps asking, "Why is this happening to me?" he is not seeking understanding, he is rejecting training. Life does not ask for your approval before it applies pressure. The foolish man believes hardship is a personal attack. He feels singled out, cursed, or unfairly treated. This belief poisons his perception and turns pain into misery. The Stoic understands something different. He knows the universe is indifferent, not cruel. Events are not punishments, they are tests. Every obstacle carries instruction for the man willing to look honestly at himself. Consider how fire behaves. Weak material is consumed by it, but strong material is refined. Pressure reveals structure. When stress enters your life, it exposes what is solid and what is fragile. The foolish man begs for relief because he mistakes comfort for safety. The Stoic accepts pressure because he knows ease breeds decay. A life without resistance produces softness, and softness produces fear. This is why men who have never been tested panic at the smallest inconvenience. They have no internal reference point for strength. They have never learned that they can endure. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action, and what stands in the way becomes the way. This is not poetry, it is strategy. When something blocks your path, you do not curse it, you study it, you adapt to it, you use it. The foolish man wastes energy complaining about the wall. The Stoic builds stairs. One man asks why the road is difficult. The other asks how difficulty can sharpen him. There is a dangerous belief that happiness should be constant and uninterrupted. This illusion makes men fragile. When discomfort arrives, they interpret it as failure. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is often proof that something is working. Growth stretches, discipline burns. Self-mastery is uncomfortable by nature. The man who avoids discomfort avoids evolution. Look at how boys respond to challenge compared to men. A boy resists correction. He defends his weakness. He demands fairness. A man absorbs feedback. He adjusts without drama. He understands that life is not designed to be fair, but to be instructive. Responsibility is the dividing line. The moment you accept full responsibility for your response, even to events you did not choose, you reclaim authority over your life. A Stoic does not ask for an easier life. He asks for a stronger mind. He does not pray for lighter burdens. He trains his shoulders. When fate applies pressure, he does not collapse inward. He expands outward. He uses adversity as fuel, not as an excuse. This is why Stoic calm unsettles weak minds. It cannot be manipulated. It cannot be rushed. It cannot be broken by noise. When you stop resisting reality, clarity returns. When you stop arguing with what is, energy becomes available. Complaining drains power. Acceptance concentrates it. The foolish man leaks energy through blame, anger, and self-pity. The Stoic conserves it. He moves deliberately. He speaks less. He observes more. He understands that silence is not passivity, it is control. If you want to know whether a man is weak or strong, do not listen to what he says when things are easy. Listen to his language when pressure arrives. Does he ask who is at fault, or does he ask what must be done? One path leads to stagnation, the other leads to mastery. There is another subtle weakness that exposes itself when pressure enters a man's life, and it often hides behind the illusion of righteousness. The foolish man believes his emotions are justified simply because he feels them. When anger rises, he obeys it. When frustration appears, he acts on it. He tells himself that his reaction is natural, that anyone in his position would respond the same way. Stoicism rejects this excuse completely. Feeling an impulse is human, but surrendering to it is a choice. The moment you believe your emotions deserve obedience, you surrender command of your mind. A man who cannot command himself will always be commanded by circumstances. Epictetus warned that people are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. This truth cuts deeper than most are willing to accept. An insult has no weight until you decide it does. A delay has no meaning until you label it disrespect. The foolish man reacts instantly because he mistakes his first impression for truth. The Stoic pauses because he understands that perception can be trained. Between what happens and how you respond, there is a space. In that space lives freedom. Most men never enter it. They live their entire lives in reflex. Anger in particular feels powerful, but it is borrowed energy. It burns fast and leaves damage behind. Seneca called it a form of temporary insanity because it narrows vision and destroys judgment. A man in anger cannot see consequences. He feels strong in the moment and weak afterward. The foolish man confuses loud emotion with strength. The Stoic understands that the ability to remain calm when provoked is dominance in its purest form. Silence under insult is not weakness. It is proof that the insult failed. Consider how easily men are manipulated through emotional triggers. A careless word, a disrespectful tone, a small inconvenience, and they unravel. Whoever controls your emotions controls your actions. The Stoic refuses to give this power away. He treats his mind like guarded territory. Not every thought is welcomed. Not every emotion is allowed to stay. He examines impressions the way a gatekeeper examines strangers before allowing entry. This discipline does not make a man cold or detached. It makes him precise. He still feels anger, disappointment, and frustration, but he does not let them steer. He uses them as information, not commands. This is why Stoic calm feels intimidating to unstable minds. It cannot be rushed, provoked, or dragged into chaos. It forces others to confront their own lack of control. A man who reacts to everything will never build anything lasting. His energy is scattered, his focus is broken, his decisions are impulsive. The Stoic conserves his force. He chooses his battles carefully. He understands that not every insult deserves a response and not every challenge deserves his attention. By refusing to react, he keeps his power intact. When you feel the urge to explode, pause. Ask yourself who benefits if you lose control. The answer is never you. Mastery begins with restraint. Strength begins with silence. A man who rules his inner world cannot be conquered by the outer one. Another weakness reveals itself in how a man relates to time. The foolish man lives as if real life has not started yet. He endures the present while fantasizing about a future version of himself who will finally be at peace. He tells himself he will be happy when circumstances change, when the money arrives, when the pressure disappears, or when life becomes easier. This belief quietly poisons the present moment. By postponing happiness, he turns today into a burden rather than a responsibility. Stoicism teaches that this mindset guarantees dissatisfaction because it ties peace to outcomes that are never fully under your control. Marcus Aurelius warned himself daily not to wander mentally into the past or the future. He understood that regret drains energy and anxiety steals clarity. The present moment is the only place where action is possible. A man who lives in the future is always absent from his duty. He misses opportunities to sharpen discipline because he believes his current efforts are merely temporary sacrifices. The foolish man treats the present like a waiting room. The Stoic treats it like a training ground. This does not mean abandoning ambition. It means releasing desperation. The foolish man chases results and panics when they do not arrive quickly. The Stoic commits to process and remains steady regardless of outcome. He understands that character is built through repetition, not reward. Each day is an opportunity to practice patience, restraint, focus, and endurance. When a man demands happiness as a reward, he becomes dependent on conditions. When he finds meaning in effort, he becomes free. Here is a quiet danger in believing that life will begin later. Many men wake up one day older, tired, and bitter, realizing they spent decades preparing for a life they never entered. They postponed self-respect, discipline, and presence, believing these things required perfect conditions. Stoicism cuts through this illusion. Peace is not found at the finish line. It is forged in how you carry yourself during the work. The Stoic does not ask whether today feels good. He asks whether today was lived correctly. Did he act with integrity? Did he use his time well? Did he strengthen his mind rather than indulge it? These questions anchor him in the present. He understands that the future is shaped by daily conduct, not wishful thinking. When you stop waiting for life to start, urgency disappears. When urgency disappears, clarity returns. You no longer rush, you no longer panic, you move deliberately. The foolish man chases happiness like a mirage. The Stoic builds contentment through discipline. He knows that a man who cannot stand still in the present will never be satisfied anywhere else. A foolish man is extinguished by the wind, but a Stoic is the fire that burns brighter because of it. Instead of asking why this is happening to him, The wise man asks what this moment is trying to teach him. Growth begins the moment a man accepts that difficulty is instruction, not punishment. The moment a man believes he already knows everything, his growth ends. The phrase, "I know that already," is the tombstone of intelligence. It is the language of a man who protects his ego instead of sharpening his mind. He listens only to reply, never to understand. New information feels like an attack on his identity rather than an opportunity to evolve. He becomes rigid, and like a dry twig, rigidity makes him easy to break. Epictetus understood this deeply and refused to teach arrogant students, because arrogance blocks wisdom. He warned that it is impossible for a man to learn what he believes he already knows. When the cup is full, nothing more can be poured in. A Zen story mirrors this truth perfectly. A scholar visited a master to learn wisdom. As the master poured tea, he kept pouring even after the cup was full, letting it overflow onto the table. The scholar shouted for him to stop, and the master calmly replied that just like the cup, the scholar's mind was already full of opinions. How could wisdom enter unless the cup was emptied first? The foolish man walks through life guarding his ignorance, terrified of admitting he is wrong. The Stoic cultivates the mind of a student. He is willing to appear foolish in the short term so he can become wise in the long term. He asks questions, admits mistakes, and understands that true wisdom begins with recognizing how much there is still to learn. Another phrase that quietly destroys a man's potential is, "I'm too busy." I don't have time to read, to think, to exercise, to reflect. The foolish man wears busyness like a badge of honor, mistaking movement for progress. He believes that constant activity means he is advancing, when in reality he is often just running in circles. Most of the time, "I don't have time" is not the truth. The truth is that it is not a priority. He somehow finds hours to scroll on his phone, but claims he cannot spare 10 minutes to strengthen his body or mind. Seneca wrote an entire essay exposing this illusion, concluding that life is long enough if you know how to use it. He observed that men guard their money fiercely, but allow anyone to steal their time. They give hours to meaningless arguments, days to shallow entertainment, and years to work they despise. Imagine receiving a bank account that deposits $86,400 every morning, but whatever you fail to spend by night is erased forever. You would treat every dollar carefully. That is exactly how time works. You receive 86,400 seconds every day, and the foolish man lets them drain away unfocused and distracted. The Stoic treats time as sacred. He cuts away the unnecessary without apology. He says no to the good so he can say yes to the great. When a man says he does not have time to improve himself, he is like a driver who refuses to stop for fuel because he is too busy driving. Eventually, he will break down. Do not be the man who reaches the end of his life realizing he was always busy but never truly alive. That realization is the ultimate cage. The foolish man also lives for an audience that is not watching. He buys things he does not need with money. He does not have to impress people he does not like. He edits his personality, silences his convictions, and suppresses his nature because he fears judgment. He becomes a slave to opinions. Marcus Aurelius found this behavior baffling and asked how it is that men value the opinions of strangers more than their own conscience. Think of an actor on stage who constantly looks to the audience for approval. He forgets his lines, stumbles over the set, and ruins the performance. To perform well, he must focus on the craft, not the applause. The foolish man is that actor, endlessly checking for validation. The Stoic stands firm. He values character over reputation and conscience over popularity. He understands that fame is noise, And reputation is merely what others think, but character is who you are when no one is watching. The moment you seek approval, you give others the power to destroy you with a single criticism. Break the chains. Let people think what they want. You have a life to live. These phrases, blaming others, surrendering emotional control, postponing happiness, rejecting fate, pretending to know, wasting time, and fearing opinion, are the bars of a prison you built for yourself. But the door is unlocked. You can walk out at any moment. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotion. It is about suppressing stupidity. It is about seeing reality clearly and acting with discipline and courage. Catch yourself the next time these words try to escape your mouth. Swallow them. Replace them with responsibility, gratitude, and action. If this message added value to your life, do not let the lesson stop here. Support the spread of this mindset. Subscribe if you want to master your mind while others lose theirs. And remember that the choice, always, is yours.